How you doing, possums? I am looking at my screen. It's a little pixelated, but I think we've got a good reception day here for the gathering room. I'm so happy that we're here again together. All day, every Saturday and Sunday, I sit and think, what shall we talk about in the gathering room tomorrow? And it makes everything in my life have a kind of clarity and joy because I know I'm going to be with you guys. Woo, I got a reaction. And I'm trying to run things myself today, as I said. I'm getting reactions, but I'm not getting, oh, hi guys. Oh, Kiki Mommy is here. Hello, Kiki Mommy. Please feel free to help me. Monique Diamond from Australia. Hello. I sound kind of like Oprah, like I'm imitating Oprah from Australia. I could never imitate the great Oprah. Rebecca says hi. Hi. Let's see. Oh, from Banff, another country, Canada. Oh, it's Liz. Hi, Liz. How you doing? So good to see you. Everyone in my life seems to be named Liz, and it's a good name. Hello, Donna from Chicago. Hello. Oh, yay. Janice from North Carolina. I'm doing a thing there in September in Boone, North Carolina. There are tickets and things. I don't know the details, but yes. Hello, Janice from New York City. I just went to see Ocean's 8 and saw wonderful shots of New York, and I am coming to see you soon. It's great. Like North Carolina. Oh, no. Oh, it's still North Carolina. Someone said New York. Linda from West Virginia. That kind of rhymes. Okay. I'm actually, Laura from Sweden. I got to see if I can find that. Trust me, Laura from Sweden is here. Anyway, bunches of people are jumping in. Oh boy, how do I hide? Okay, I just go to hide. I don't want to end the broadcast. Okay, so there are people here from Mexico, from Seattle, from Puerto Rico. Woo, woo, woo. Welcome to the gathering room. I love you guys. I love you for being here with me today. And today what I wanted to talk about was finding clarity. Ooh, Sean from New Zealand. Ooh, isn't it incredible? Tens of thousands of miles, oceans between us. And yet some of us, like in New Zealand and in California, we're looking up at the very same sun, you and me. Isn't that interesting? And we're looking at the very same gathering room. Miracles just never cease. Okay, so I'm talking about finding the clear space. And some of you may have heard me tell this story before, but I really needed it lately because I'm in a transitional phase of my life and you really need to use this. So one day, you know how life seems to want to teach you lessons sometimes. Once I was waiting in an airport for an airplane and I struck up a conversation with this guy who was a hockey player, a professional hockey player. And for some reason he said to me, here's the deal. When you're playing hockey, the goal is really small and the goalie is really big and he's got a lot of padding. And there are only 5 spaces, like over his shoulders, under his arms, and like between his legs. I can't remember which spaces there were, but there are 5 little spaces and they're small. And he said, you have to shoot through those spaces to score a goal. And he said, here's the deal. You look at the spaces, you don't look at the goalie because where your eyes go, the puck goes. I was like, good to know. Then I got on the airplane. Somebody sitting next to me was a kayaker. And we struck up a conversation and he said, yeah, in a level 5 whitewater rapid, you will have all rocks and one little clear stream of water. He said, here's the deal. You only look at the clear stream, you don't look at the rocks because where your eyes go, the boat goes. Okay, then I got off the plane. I had a horseback riding lesson and my horseback riding lesson teacher said, keep your eyes, pick a destination and keep your eyes on the destination because where your eyes go, the horse goes. And I was like, thank you, universe. This is more than a coincidence. I get it. Where your eyes go, everything goes. Where your attention goes, your life goes. Okay, something's telling me only pay attention to the very small things that are your destiny, your goal, your clear space, and actually don't look at the other things, even though they're all around and they may be much bigger. than the clear spaces. And I was thinking today, because, you know, I'm moving. I've never done a house move where there weren't a million like misunderstandings, logistical conflicts, things going back and forth, all these people involved, high emotion. It's always a turmoil. It's always a whitewater rapid. So I've been thinking and thinking, how do I keep my eyes on the clear spaces? And what struck me is the way you look at the clear spaces in your life has everything to do with the phrase make believe. Because here's the thing, we grow up with lots of social training and a lot of experiences, and we draw conclusions from that that says, this is how the world works. This is what's true, this is what's false. And we believe it, we think it's just truth. But in fact, it is something that was made and then believed. Some of it was made by our ancestors and our parents, and you know, the dysfunctions you learned in your family were made by family heritage and then believed by everyone in your family. You go to a therapist, the therapist says, that's not the way love works. Let me tell you this, you know, love doesn't mean you have to sacrifice your happiness for another person. That was make-believe. And it's ramming you right into the rocks of life. It's crushing you. So let's find a clear space. What feels clear when you believe it? And you say, but this is reality. This is what my family believes. No, everything is made believe, because we can't create a scheme of meaning that is vast enough to take in the total actuality of all of the universe. Our perceptions are actually very narrow. There's something called attentional blindness, where people literally do not see what is right freaking in front of them. Terrible stories like the guy who was driving a double-decker bus and having an argument with his sister on the phone in broad daylight. He drove under a bridge that was too short, and there was lots of signage and everything, and it took off the top layer of the bus and killed several people. His eyes, he was on a hands-free set, his eyes were clear, but his attention was on the argument with his sister, and he literally didn't see the bridge. They've done this with fighter pilots when they put too many input feeds into the cockpit pit, and there are too many indicator lights and too many people telling them what to do. What happens is they go so attention blind that they actually can't even hear the controller in the tower. They literally become like they're blind and deaf. So we live in a constant barrage of attention demands. And in all of that, there is only what is made and then believed in terms of how the world works, right? Our attention is small, the world is vast. And how we think it works depends on the framing up of our belief systems. We make things mean something, and then we believe in that meaning. So that would mean that everyone was sort of going at cross purposes, and everybody was just subjective, and there would be no agreement ever on anything if everybody just said, well, it's all make-believe, I'm making this happen. But there's something else, you guys. There is something that I call your sense of truth. And it's like one of your five senses. It's that strong. It's as strong as seeing or hearing or touching. It is the sense that you get when you solve a math equation, or when you remember something correctly, or when you know that you love something or someone. Something resonates deep inside you, and it's different from when you make believe something painful. So here we have two ways of making believe. One takes you right into the goalie. It takes you right into the rocks. It takes you into a horseback riding accident. When you are make-believing something that hurts you, what life was trying to tell me that day is find anything to believe, to make believe, that gives you clarity, that stops bashing you against the rocks, that makes the horse calm down, that sends that puck right into the net. Find that kind of meaning and make it what you believe. And it's so funny because our culture disdains make-believe. That's just make-believe. That's an insult, right? And yet we make believe our own culture all the time. Like there's the reality. So you look at reality, there are things we can agree on from our five senses. Then there's the meaning, which we make, right? So then there's the fact that all things pass away, for example. That is a sorrow to people who want things to stay, and most of us do. So a lot of us make that mean that life is despair. You know, in the Old Testament it says, I've seen everything done under the sun, and all of it is futility and striving after wind. None of it means anything. That's something you can make it mean. Buddhists might say, all things pass, but I am not all things. I am something that is not a thing. I'm beyond things, and therefore the coming and going of things can't shake me from my serenity. Okay? One way I made believe about that was when I was 16, I was just devastated over the fact that everything passes away. I saw no reason to go on living. And I remember my English teacher in high school saying, these are the happiest times you will ever have, children. And I was like, I'm going to kill myself tonight. But then I started reading layman's physics, and I was reading about time. I was obsessed with time because it felt wrong to me. The meaning our culture makes of time felt wrong to me. And then I was reading about how Einstein was riding a trolley away from the town square where there was a clock. And he realized that if he was moving at the same speed as a photon bouncing off that clock, that bit of light that's showing him the clock, if he was moving at the same speed as that photon, speed of light, the clock would never change. Time would have stopped. So at the speed of light, there is no time. And I remember thinking that and thinking, oh, we're all light. Our truth is light. We're light, so we're not in a time. We can go anywhere in the universe forever and ever and still be in the same moment. Oh, thank God. And something went chunk, and I made a different meaning. And the moment I believed it, this huge clarity came upon me. And I just went, like I hadn't been able to draw a breath from the moment I was born, because that's, you know, the idea that everything passes is so convincing. Talk about what's real. And yet it bashed me against the rocks, you guys. It made the horse rear and buck. It never got the puck into the goal. And when somebody gave me a different way of making meaning, and I let myself believe it, I was in the clear. So this shooting for the clear spaces is with whatever's in your life right now. If there's difficulty, and there is, all right, it might be a small difficulty. It might, like you're getting older. It might be a huge difficulty, like you're about to die. I mean, it could be, or you've been betrayed. You know, life is hard. That's another noble truth of Buddhism, the noble truth of impermanence, the noble truth of suffering. Suffering actually comes first. So what are we going to make that mean? Find a clear space. I know the goalie is taking up almost the entire net. I know the rocks are literally everywhere. They extend into mountains on both sides, but there's a clear space there for the puck. There's a clear rivulet for that kayak. So what I want to do is find that problem and ask yourself, could I make it mean something that would put me in a space of clarity? And you know a space of clarity because it feels like love. It feels like truth. It feels like peace. It makes your body relax. It makes your heart relax. Everything in your biology is geared to know the truth. And it must be something in your spirit as well, because how could my body know that Einstein's version of time is actually more testably true than Newton's version of time? Somehow I knew that in my cells. I knew that in my molecules, maybe in my subatomic particles, in my wavulets, in my superstrings. I don't know where I knew it, but I knew it. And it saved my sanity at age 16. And ever since then, I've been looking for ways to make meaning that takes me into the clear. And that's where we hide from suffering, folks, in plain sight, in the clearest space that we can make, as long as we believe it. So I expect a lot of you are going, huh? Because it's kind of an esoteric set of concepts. So if you have any questions, like here's Monica Paul. She says, she said she made 2 comments. I'm looking for it. I'm not good at this myself. Oh, okay, I'm gonna go up. So if you have a question, could you type it in the comment? Oh, L. Wolf says, I was just thinking about this today. It's make-believe. I just want to put that one up there because it's amazing how often when we believe something, we then make other things show us that it's true. I had a friend who used to talk about her depression glasses. She would put on her depression glasses and literally everything she saw in the real world was depressing. Then she went on an antidepressant and suddenly everything she saw in the real world wasn't so depressing. But often even things that we think about that are bizarrely abstract, like if I'm thinking about, I don't know the phrase, beetles don't decay. Somebody will say it to me today because there's something connected in our consciousness. So that's an interesting thing. But I wanted to also get some questions. Here's one from Crystal. She says, what do you do when your kid is down and out, but doesn't want to open up to get clear and focus on this clear space? I know I can't show him where his clear space is. As a mother, you want to solve it and you can't. As a coach, I know I can't, but in this situation, I'm a mom. Any tips? Oh boy, do I ever hear you, Crystal. I'm gonna take this down so you can see my face. Oh, you can see my face. Here's the deal. I did the work with Byron Katie way back, like, I don't know, 20 years ago when she just published her first book. And the first thing on my mind was my oldest daughter, whom I loved intensely, but who was not made for our school system. And if I had it to do over, I wouldn't have sent her to this school system. So life had thrown nothing but rocks at her. And she was unhappy, and it was anguish for me, and it was not helping her. So I said to Katie, you know, I can't get out of this tangle of wanting to help my daughter. And she said, then get out of your tangle. Because if you're going to teach her anything, it will be by example. So get out of your own tangle. And she said it very lovingly, and she helped me get out of my own tangle. And I know you're a mom, and the culture makes us believe that to suffer horribly when our children are suffering is good mothering. And I know you know that's not true, so I'm gonna reinforce. That's what your culture makes you believe. If it's bashing you against the rocks, stop it. Let go of your son's happiness to get out of your own tangle and show him how. And shortly after that, my brilliant daughter, without saying much, gave me a song called Let Me Fall. And it basically said exactly what Katie told her, because that daughter of mine is actually, I think she was born on the same day that Byron Katie had her big enlightenment experience, and I named my daughter Katie on that very day. So she knew what she was about. And when I started untangling myself, she not only started doing it herself, but she gave me permission in a way that was wise beyond her years. Let your son have a chance to show you how brilliant he really is. Get out of your own tangle, and then he'll find the clear space. He will. Okay, here's a good one. Michelle says, the therapist says, what feels clear? What does what feels clear mean? Thank you for not saying, Martha, you're saying what feels clear. What the hell are you talking about? So I'm going to give you a little example. Think of something you have to do tomorrow and think, okay, say I have to clean the kitchen. I have to clean my kitchen, or I have to go to work, or whatever it is. And think to yourself, my destiny, the essence of my life is to clean the kitchen. The essence of my experience in life is to go to work tomorrow. And feel that. And it probably feels quite true. Then say this to yourself. My essence, my destiny, my purpose is to exist in peace, is to find the way I can exist in peace. And let that drop down like you're dropping something into a well and rest inside you. I've worked with people in prison. I've worked with psychopaths. I've worked with drug addicts. There's never been a single person who didn't feel clarity when they said and believed, let themselves believe I am meant to live in peace. And that is clearer than the other feeling. And all I can do is ask you to try different lenses and see if the focus is clear. It's like you're going to the optometrist and he says, which is clearer, lens A or lens B, lens 1 or lens 2? And you can see, sometimes it's almost the same, but often you can say, oh, that feels clearer than this. This feels clearer than that. And as you go through the world making meaning, the important thing is to know that when you're suffering, it's because the lens you're looking through is blurred, is not right for your eyes. And when you change the meaning and let yourself believe in a different meaning, and it feels, it's like being able to see through a clear lens. That's the best I can describe it, but it's a feeling that goes through your whole body. And what else do we have to rely on? We rely on our sense of truth to tell us everything about, tells us we're awake right now instead of dreaming. It's just a sense of the real. Okay, people are saying their children should listen to this. I always say when I think my children should listen to it, I should probably listen to it. Let's see, I'm looking for more questions. So many people are so lovely. Monica says she's in a transitional journey. You and me both, love. Let's do this together. That's another thing, is let's do this together. So many things, not so many questions. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Donna says, I have long believed I am flawed because I feared loving my brother. I believed myself to be judgmentally angry because he was born with Down syndrome. The clear space maybe feels like seeing I didn't understand him or know how to love. However, that makes meaning belief is not powerful enough to erase the feeling of being flawed. Am I on the wrong path? Do I have it wrong? Okay, Donna, as much as I can understand, your clarity that you're trying to rearrange, your meaning is, I didn't love my brother enough, and therefore I am bad. And that is smashing you into the rocks, because it's not true. The clear space, you say, is maybe saying, I don't understand him or know how to love. Okay, maybe that's a little clearer, but it's not giving you peace. Clarity and peace go together. So you say your belief is not powerful enough to erase the feeling of being flawed. Here's the thing, darling. The feeling of being flawed comes from the belief that you are flawed. The belief is where you're making believe. You're making believe that you are flawed. And when I look at that situation, I can tell you, I did research on this when my son was born. The vast majority of siblings who have a brother or sister with Down syndrome don't know how to handle the experience. How could you? It doesn't mean you're flawed, hon. I mean, it's because you were innocent. It's because you had no believing then what you believed, what you had been taught to believe. You had no other choice because you weren't making believe on purpose. You were believing what other people had made you believe, that there was something really scary about Down syndrome, something really horrible. After my son was born, I could not find a clear space. Couldn't find it. It seems funny to me now, but at the time I literally thought, I've been able to look on the sunny side of every situation in my life, but this one has zero upside. There is no way this is anything but a tragedy for all of us. Him, me, my family, everyone concerned, humanity. And then I started making believe in a very radical way. Because remember, I was getting my PhD at Harvard. I was 25 years old. I was totally soaked in culture, had never questioned the culture of rationalism. I thought mind was everything, but I started to say, what if there's a metaphysical realm? What if there is a spirit inside this child that is here to wear a different uniform from mine for its own purposes? What if there's an intelligence much vaster than human rationality that is shaping everything to perfection? What if this child is magical? What if, like people used to believe in the ancient British Isles, He's a fairy changeling that was left in place of a normal child. What if everything about him is magic? And as I started, and I would do it, I'd say, I know this is insane. I know it's wrong. I know what's real, but I'm going to make believe for a few minutes that this child is a magical being full of purpose who is a blessing to everything in the universe. And I would make believe that for 5 minutes at a time, and suddenly everything would clear. Like crazy stuff happened. I hadn't been able to finish one of my classes at Harvard, and I went to my teacher to say, please give me an extension. I just had this baby, he has Down syndrome. But I went there making believe that it would be okay, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to talk. I was so crushed, devastated. So I walked into her office, this really, a stern, brilliant scientist. And I said to her, look, I'm sorry, I didn't hand the paper in. Can I have an incomplete instead of a failing grade? And she looked at me, and then I swear, something came into her face. I don't know if it was something I brought in or something God gave or her own goodness shining through, but something changed, and her face became different. It became beautiful. I mean, she was already beautiful, but it became more beautiful. And she said to me, I'm going to give you an A and trust you to hand in that paper. I mean, you guys, I don't know what it was like where you went to college, but at Harvard, that doesn't happen. I did it, I made good on my word. But because I was making believe that there was a world far more benevolent than anything I was aware of, that wasn't even rational, this very rational person did something quite irrational and magical that made a clear space for me. And I kind of went, wow, that's weird. So then I kept going back to making believe that our lives have a meaning that goes way beyond intellect, that there are magical aspects to reality that our culture denies, that there are cultures all over the world that tap into those spiritual resonances far better than people in the developed world with our higher educations. And the more I went into those spaces, along with believing in science, the more I opened the spectrum of my belief, the more clear spaces open for me in life. So yeah, it comes to rest in your body and your soul. It feels like a bell ringing, yeah? But then miracles start happening around you to clear the way. The puck goes into the net when you couldn't see a way for it to happen. You get through the absolute, through a waterfall that lands on nothing but rocks, and you find yourself unscathed. The horse rears and bucks, and somehow you stay aboard, relaxed, and the horse calms down again and goes where you need it to go, and you find out that the horse knows the way home. There's so much clarity that comes into the world when our minds come into clarity. So, I talk all the time about Byron Katie, and what she does is question every belief, knowing that all beliefs in the human psyche are make-believe, because they're limited versions of reality. And to go back to Buddhism, when you sit and watch your mind for hours and hours and hours, you start to see that it's make-believe. You start to see that the whole world in there is a meaning-making machine. And it goes this way and that way, depending on your mood, depending on what you're thinking about. And none of it is the same as absolute reality. And so instead of seizing a different reality, you allow the mind to be clear to whatever is happening at the moment. So in this moment, I asked you to bring up something difficult for your life, right? From your life. And now I want you, I am meant to be in peace. I would love you to say, I don't know what is going to happen here, but I am going to make believe that it is happening for my benefit. I am going to make believe that the intelligence guiding this situation is far greater than my own, and I'm going to make believe that it loves me and that it has put me here in this form for a reason. My beloved Ro, who's often on these, broadcasts will say to me at a time when I've made believe something difficult, she'll say, 100 years before you were born, God drew a circle around the spot where you are now standing. And when I let myself believe that, everything clears up. So I love you guys to pieces. We've come to the half hour. Thank you so much. I'm not sure where I'll be broadcasting from next week, but I'll be here. Thanks for joining me. I wish I could just smooch you all. Go for the clear spaces.